Hello, my friends. Well, here we are again. Rachel has released another batch of texts and conversations and even a voice memo from Emily, really exposing what kind of a person Amberlynn Reid is behind the scenes. And just like we all kind of knew, she is a person who is completely lacking in empathy, self-awareness, respect for others or their boundaries. And she is somebody who lives by the motto, rules for thee and not for me. And this really shows the mind of someone whose universe revolves around her feelings. Nothing else matters to her. And I hope that you were as lucky as me and were able to make the premiere of this video. It was quite the party. There were 12,000 plus people tuning in. Mr. Snowflake was there, the Ankle was there, Salty Crab showed up, Jordy, Studio Deets, Jawbone, Hello It's Heavy. It really felt like a Girl World Avengers Assemble moment. Plus, so many great people just having a great time talking about how crazy this whole thing is. And it felt like quite a community event. This was Girl World history in the making, and it was fun to be a part of it. So if you were there, I'm glad that you got to experience it with me. But we've got a lot to cover. So let's just dive into the pitiful, contemptible mind of Amberlynn Reid. If you'd like to like and subscribe, that would literally be hectic. I'm not gonna lie. So I want to start off with a caveat, because I'm afraid I will say this throughout the entire video, so I'm gonna just say it here and get it out of the way. And that is, regardless of what we see here, Emily stayed. And may still be staying, because as of right now, it looks as though, and actually I've heard from my contact, that they are still talking. Now, are they back together? Maybe, probably, honestly. And I made a video kind of going over why I think they might still be together. And right after that went up, Amber made a post that basically proved my video right. And it is very likely that, if nothing else, they are friends again. So I can't give Emily too much credit, because it's very clear in these texts and in these conversations, she was done with Amber. She was tired of her shit and ready to kick her to the curb, but she just never did, and may still not have. So really, this video isn't in support of the victim necessarily, which is Emily. This is more just to show who Amber really is, because I don't have a ton of sympathy for Emily, because she just kept going back. Even when they were separated physically across the country, she just kept putting up with Amber. So this is really just a look into Amber's mind. And we're going to start with the voice memo, which isn't proof of anything necessarily. And that's something that Rachel points out, is that it's just her side of the story. But at this point, everything Emily has said has been backed up with texts. We have seen proof and evidence that corroborates Emily's story. So at this point, I really don't have much reason not to believe Emily, because Amber's side always changes and she's a known liar, and there's just too many questions on her side, whereas Emily's side never changes. She tells the same story every time, and then when we see it in texts, it's the exact same story. So unless we are given reason not to, we're just going to believe what Emily's saying in this.
She was standing in the doorway of my room, and I was trying to get out of my room to go get some space because she wouldn't leave me alone. She was yelling at me, screaming at me, and I asked her to move like 50 times. Wouldn't do it, so I tried pushing past her, and she pushed back and lost her balance and fell on top of me.
And remember, Amber said that she tripped on something, and that's what caused her to fall. So ultimately, she wasn't wrong about the fall being an accident, but it doesn't really matter, because the intent was Amber not letting Emily by, not letting Emily leave. So even if that part was an accident, it doesn't really matter, because if the accident happened because you were trying to push her away and keep her in the room and not let her leave, and you just happen to fall, it's still abuse. It's still you controlling somebody physically. So you can say you tripped and fell all you want, but it's why you found yourself in that position in the first place and the intent that you had when you fell.
And I do have a dog bed in my room, but that's not where we were standing. I have my laundry pile. Normally it's in a basket, but sometimes the basket's downstairs by the laundry, so it's just some clothes next to my dresser.
Yeah, I mean, it's always in the basket. This is just the one time that it wasn't. It's not usually sitting on the floor in a pile. Okay.
But she didn't trip over anything. She straight up lost her balance when she was pushing me to keep me into the room.
And remember, that's when Amber said, "How come you pushed me?
How come you pushed me?"
And that's when Amber tried to explain that she tripped and tried to catch Emily. Almost like, I tripped, it was an accident, but I was trying to save her. But no, she was trying to push her away to keep her in the room.
I was like, my adrenaline was just rushing at that point. I was like freaking out. And then I got up and I was like freaking out, and she came over and she was trying to say, first she said she was so sorry, and then I said I need to leave, and she grabbed my arm and she was like, "No, you're not," and like squeezed the shit out of it with her nails.
And I can see that happening because in the moment when something is about to happen that Amber does not want to happen, nothing else matters to her other than stopping that thing from happening. She gets the idea that Emily's about to walk out of here, but I want to finish this conversation, damn it. And I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to make sure she doesn't leave. So it doesn't surprise me that she would try to push her back in the room and then grab her. Because honestly, I can picture Amber frantically freaking out, like red-faced, crying, screaming, and waddling her way over to grab Emily's arms to hold her, to keep her from going anywhere. Because in that moment, nothing else matters to Amber other than getting what she wants. Not even her girlfriend's safety.
And right before she squeezed the shit on my arms, like she had pushed me to the ground, I got up and I was like sobbing, because that's like a huge trigger for me with what happened with Megan, is like being contained and not being able to leave. And I told her, I'm like, you know that is such a huge trigger for me.
Well, and here's something to think about, Emily. That should be a trigger regardless of your past. That shouldn't happen to anybody ever. If your partner is doing that, you should not be with them, period. Regardless of your past. Your partner should know not to push you or grab your arm, but especially knowing your history, especially knowing that Amber knows your history, that just makes an already terrible situation that much worse. And those red flags are flying right in front of your face. And I understand that while Amber was in Wisconsin, Emily was in a difficult position because she either had to just wait for Amber to maybe call her mom to come pick her up, which she probably would never do. Even if she's saying, I'm calling my mom, she's going to come get me. She wasn't. She was never going to have her mom come get her. Emily's only real option was to drive across the country, take that time off of work, or plan around her days off or whatever. So in the meantime, she was sort of stuck with Amber. And then when Rarity went missing, I mean, I get that she was in a tough spot. But then once Amber was gone, Emily, I hate to sound like I'm victim blaming, but at that point, it should have been very easy for you to skedaddle. So while I understand while she was in Wisconsin, you were the victim for sure. After that, I mean, you kind of have to take responsibility for your own actions at that point.
And I'm like, how could you do that? And then that's when she made the comment that she can see why Megan did what she did, because she could see how I pushed her to the edge, just like I was doing to her. And it was like literally in the middle of the night, and like I had woken up and asked her to turn down her brightness on her laptop and turn down the sound because I had to.
Well, okay, hang on. So something interesting from the first Rachel video, Rachel kind of describes where Emily and Amber were asleep, and Emily supposedly woke up kind of in the middle of a nightmare, thinking that her and Amber were arguing. And I thought I remembered Emily sort of corroborating that, but I don't think she does. I think that's just something Amber said in the texts. She says that an hour and a half later, you woke up thinking we were arguing when I was literally sleeping. I don't understand what just happened. So Amber is painting this picture that Emily woke up and just started fighting. But I don't see anywhere that Emily agrees with that. Yeah, in fact, here it just says, you were shining a bright light in my face. So I don't know that that happened. I think it was literally just Amber being so inconsiderate that while Emily was sleeping, the light and sound from Amber's laptop just woke her up. And of course, Emily was pissed off. I would be too. And that actually makes this text from Amber even worse, because Amber said, I was sleeping. I tried to explain to you that I was sleeping and that you probably had a nightmare. Instead of you believing me, you called me a liar and was flat out angry with me. And the way I'm picturing it now is Amber is just being inconsiderate, playing on her laptop and doing whatever she wants. Emily wakes up angry and is like, turn that shit off. And Amber's like, you're so angry, you must have had a nightmare. Trying to gaslight. And Emily just gets even more pissed off, because of course she does. She's half asleep. She's trying to sleep because she's got work the next morning. And Amber is just being the worst. So that paints this whole scenario in a whole different light and makes Amber look even worse, if that's even possible. And it is, because it will continue.
Work the next day, and she like took her phone flashlight and shined it in my face, and I'm like, I was pissed. I'm like, what?
Can you imagine? Like, you're already mad because she woke you up being inconsiderate and not giving a shit whether you're sleeping or not, and clickety clacking on her laptop, and the light is shining and stuff. And when you say, hey, will you turn that off? I'm trying to sleep. She shines a flashlight in your eyes. First of all, of course she did. It's Amberlynn Reed. You've made her mad. You've said something she doesn't like. So she's going to make your life a living hell. But holy shit, what a petulant child. And I don't doubt it's something Amber would do, because it gets a rise out of Emily. It gets them an opportunity to fight, and for Amber to play the victim and say, why are you yelling at me? Right? It's that kid that puts his finger in your face and says, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. And then whenever you yell at her, she says, oh, I can't believe you're being so mean to me. You're hurting me. That is just her default behavior, is pushing you to your limit and then crying victim when you react. And we're going to see that front and center as we go forward.
What are you doing? I have to get up to work. And like it all escalated from there, and like because I was upset about it, it made her upset. And you know, the whole how can you treat me like this? And when she was upset and I didn't want to calm her down, I'm like, you're upset because I was upset. I'm not going to sit here and calm you down. Just leave me alone, please. I mean, that's how it always went down. Sorry if I was all over the place with the timeline, but I mean, obviously you get the gist of it. But like, for her to say that, like, Megan, I triggered Megan into doing that, like I triggered her into doing that, kind of like using that against me.
And that's wild, because that is Amber's MO. Like I was saying a minute ago, she pushes and pushes and pushes just so that she'll get a rise out of you, so that then she can say, I can't believe you're treating me like this. And then making you feel crazy by saying that you're doing that. And I'm kind of debating whether I think she knows that she's doing that or not. I think most of the time she's cognizant of her gaslighting and manipulating and things like that. But in this instance, I wouldn't be surprised if basically what's happening is her fuse is so short, it's non-existent. Just looking at her wrong sends her into orbit, and her response is so irrational that of course her partners react. And then Amber's flabbergasted that they're being so mean to her. And I think she really feels like they've pushed her into being even more unhinged, even though she started going from 0 to 11 for no reason. But again, it could also very well be intentional.
And then I was like, how fucking could you? And I'm like, that's when I'm like, you need to fucking leave, like, permanently. And that's when she grabbed my arm and squeezed the fuck out of it. And then eventually after that I left and out the back door because she followed me downstairs. And I was getting my shoes on. She stood in front of the front door.
That's interesting. She followed her downstairs. So, I mean, it sounds like stairs really aren't a problem for her as long as she's got the right motivation.
So I went out the back door. I closed it. She was right behind me. She claims I left the door open or whatever. That was one of her many stories of the Rarity situation. But yeah, the whole night was just awful. And I had to go work. I didn't sleep the entire night. I had to go to work for a 12-hour shift. And then I came home and the cat was missing. So I spent all night looking for the cat and making, she didn't do anything to help look for the cat. She didn't even go outside with me for the initial, my initial search. I searched the house. She didn't even do that. She sat on the couch.
I mean, really think about that for a minute, right? We saw the texts and it was very clear that the timing was suspicious. That all of a sudden, when Amber needed to pull out all the stops, Rarity disappears. She needs Emily to come home, needs her attention, and Rarity's gone. And then on top of that, the night her cat goes missing, the cat that she claims is her whole world.
So when I started raising 3 fur babies of my own, that was a big change for me. I have never and would never do anything to hurt them or to make their existence harder. I have tried everything I can to love them and care for them because they are ultimately my world. And I love them so fucking much. Like, you guys have no idea. Rarity was everything to me.
She doesn't even go outside to look or to holler for Rarity, which makes this text where she says, I didn't go to the back porch, make a lot more sense. She wasn't willing to even just go to the back porch. Why? Like, even if the cat wasn't your whole world, you'd think you would take just a minute to go to the back porch. And, we all kind of assume that was Amber maybe manipulating the situation. Maybe she put Rarity out on the back porch and thought she would be there, and Emily could be the savior who came and checked the back porch, and that was sort of like a setup. And honestly, the fact that Amber wasn't willing to lift a finger to look for Rarity kind of makes that seem more plausible, that Amber actually put Rarity out. I was kind of on the fence whether or not I thought Amber did it intentionally. I thought it was more just neglect, but I don't know now, man. The fact that she was so unwilling to do anything, it doesn't seem so far-fetched that Amber would just toss Rarity out and hope that Emily would find her and not really care one way or the other.
When she says how awful I was to her, it was always when she would do things like get mad at me for being going outside and smoking, and she asked to come with, and I would say, no, I want some alone time. She did not like that. Or she would say, you've been out there for 17 minutes now, what are you doing? And I would get upset about it, and that would make her upset.
And see, that's kind of what I was saying earlier about her short fuse. Emily just saying, I'd like to go smoke by myself. Amber immediately overreacts. And when Emily's like, what the hell, stop acting like that, then Amber becomes unglued because she feels like she's being attacked. She feels like Emily is being so awful. This is someone who is completely emotionally stunted. I have a 10-year-old son, and I'm not going to say too much other than the fact that he is learning right now how to deal with big emotions. And we're helping him figure that out. And Amber is feeling big emotions, and she never learned what to do with them. And I would have some sympathy for her because that could be part of her trauma from her childhood. That could be part of BPD. But the problem is she has had every opportunity, and I mean every, because she sits around doing nothing all day long, and she's got plenty of money to take care of it, but she refuses to get help for it. She refuses to go see anybody who can help her figure out what to do with these big emotions. And so instead of channeling them properly, she hurts people.
I'm like, you need to give me space. And she just wouldn't. And I'm like, I can't handle this anymore, Amberlynn. I'm going to go crazy. I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. I need some time to myself after working when it's a shift that so busy that I don't even get to have a break more than 3 minutes to pee. And then...
Well, and that kind of goes back to that short fuse thing where you never know what's going to set her off. And it's a constant thing. You're always setting her off because Amber needs you to always be kissing her ass and reassuring her that you are never going to leave her and always giving her attention. So when you're not doing that, you are likely going to set her off. So on top of the fact that you're dealing with her bullshit, you're also walking on eggshells constantly. So yeah, I bet that would get pretty tiring.
When I would get upset about that, she would get upset and then expect me to calm her down. And it was always, I didn't care about her feelings. I was stonewalling her. I was cold, insensitive. I don't care about her. I don't love her. I'm the worst girlfriend. How can I treat her like this? And that was like a daily thing. To the point where it was getting to be like multiple times a day where she would get mad at me. Then it was getting to the point where like she had no periods of time where she wasn't mad at me.
And I love the way Emily said she expected me to calm her down. That is what Amber does, is she gets upset and then in her mind, you should drop everything and tend to her heart. Make sure she's happy. Reassure her that you love her and spend however long it takes to calm her down and to get her back to normal. And that's probably okay the first couple of times, but then you start realizing, holy shit, this is going to happen constantly. I've done this 10 times already just today. I don't want to do this again. But to Amber, she needs to be the center of your universe. So no matter how many times it takes, no matter how long it takes, you better drop what you're doing and help her and calm her down. And that's why in one of her lives...
Yeah, Grace, because any time that I would start crying, she would leave the room completely. That's what I had to deal with. Someone who did not care about my feelings at all.
She said, when I was crying, she would just leave the room. Can you believe it? Like, yes, in her mind, if she's crying, that should be the only thing that matters to her partner or whoever's near her. They need to focus on her. Because if I'm crying and my partner leaves the room, it's understandable. We're in an argument. We're both upset. I can understand if my partner needs to leave the room and get a few minutes alone. I get it. But to Amber, it's like leaving the room when I'm crying means she doesn't care about me. And that's the leap that Amber always takes, is whatever you're doing, if it's not exactly what she wants you to do, you don't care about me. And then that sends her deeper and deeper into her irrational bullshit that she expects you to deal with. Now, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you've already seen Rachel's. And if you haven't, then obviously go watch that. But I'm not going to go over everything that she talks about. But she does make a good point with the proof that Amber tried to show, where she just typed in specific keywords because that's all she was trying to prove was that Emily called her names. She didn't understand that, like, yeah, we get it. We know she did. That's not the problem. The name calling isn't the problem. It was what you did to cause it or how you reacted to it. And when you showed this proof, since you just typed in a keyword, it doesn't show any of the context. It only shows the texts with that word in it. So we were missing whatever you said that Emily was responding to. And so that's what we're getting here. We're getting that missing context. And one of the texts that I wanted to point out here is Amber says, I'm still going live tonight. I really hope we can fix this before I do. Now, if Amber and Emily had a normal relationship where they didn't fight all the time and it wasn't toxic, that doesn't really sound like a threat. But to any of us that knows anything about Amberlynn, that sounded like a threat. Did it not? Of course it did. So when she says, I really hope we can fix this before I do, Emily says, is that a threat? And she says, it's not a fucking threat, Emily. My God, why are you so rude to me? And that's a great example of Amber's MO. She threatens constantly. And then when Emily says, is that a threat? She says, no, why are you so rude to me? Because even if that wasn't a threat, Amber does it so much, it's the girl who cried wolf. So she doesn't really have a right to be all pissy about it because it sounds like something she would do. Of course, she doesn't think that, but it is. And it's so funny because Rachel says, and this is where it gets interesting.
But this is where it starts to get very, very interesting.
A lot in this video because it does just keep getting more and more interesting. It's just so weird. Their relationship was weird. And this is where we start realizing that Amber would keep Emily on FaceTime constantly. And so at this point, Amber, I guess, screams Emily's name, clearly trying to wake her up. Why else would you scream her name? Emily says, you woke me out of a dead sleep when I'm sick to be an effing C word to me. And then she says, I didn't know you were sleeping. Then why would you scream? Telling you that I'm hurting because of something you said online isn't being a C word. And that's where Emily says, you knew damn well I was sleeping and you screamed my name. I thought your phone was on low like it was last night. Like, shut up. And so to me, it's pretty clear that what happened here is Amber got angry at some stuff that Emily was saying online. And Emily admits that she said some stuff online that wasn't very nice. But to Amber, the fact that she is hurting should be the most important thing, not only to her, but to Emily too. So she's not even thinking about whether or not Emily's asleep. That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters to Amber is telling Emily how she feels about something. So when Emily doesn't respond, immediately, Amber starts screaming. And Emily saying, you knew damn well I was sleeping. Well, maybe, but she didn't care one way or the other, right? She didn't care to know whether you were sleeping or not. That didn't matter in the moment. And then, of course, Emily sort of confirms the fake health scare stuff that Amber always does. And when she had COVID, she overreacted, we'll say.
And there was my thing. Like, I genuinely am so shocked. Like, I didn't expect to be the one. I thought I was just gonna go my whole life without it. And I don't know, I'm just kind of like scared. So
you can imagine how dire it was when she was talking to Emily behind the scenes. And here, Amber says this, and I would like to know how many times she said this to Emily throughout their relationship, where she says, you treat me horribly. Because what Amber wants is for somebody to just tell her constantly how wonderful she is, how much they love her, and that's it. She can say and do whatever she wants to them, and in response, they should just say, thank you, I love you, let's stay together forever. I'm so sorry that you had so much childhood trauma. That would be her perfect life, is just somebody sitting around telling her those things over and over again. So when Emily would call her on her bullshit, that didn't fit into the Delulu land that Amber created for herself. And so she takes that as being treated horribly. And I love this one. where Emily says, "Because I have shit to do, Amberlynn. I don't just sit around watching YouTube all day. I have responsibilities, pets that I actually take care of."
Got him!
And this is coming from somebody who witnessed it firsthand. And this is after the rarity thing. It's one thing for us to call her out because we have seen bits and pieces of the way she treats her animals. And we've seen Twinkie's nails, and, it's pretty obvious she neglects her pets. But Emily was there. She saw exactly how she treats her pets. And for her to say that just kind of confirms what we already knew. And there's something that Rachel said that stuck with me because, all of us that have been covering this have said none of us really like Emily either. They both suck. It's a toxic relationship. And we understand that the way Emily was treating Amber was also bad. And Rachel says this.
And people say, oh, they're as bad as each other. I don't think that is true. I really don't. I've seen a lot of messages. I've seen a lot of stuff. And I haven't seen Emily do really anything to Amber apart from not fucking accept her bullshit.
And that's true. We have seen so many messages at this point. And Amber has had ample opportunities to set the record straight or show us where Emily has been so horrible. But again, to Amber, the name calling is the problem, is the worst thing that happened throughout all of this. So we have lots and lots of evidence of Amber being a monster and a menace, and then Emily just sort of not putting up with it. So I agree with Rachel. I don't think Emily is nearly as bad as Amber. But that being said, Emily did put up with it. She might have called her out on it. She might have told Amber she can't treat her like that or whatever. But ultimately, she did put up with it. And she likely still is. They may still be together at this point. If nothing else, they're likely still friends. So, yeah, she is putting up with it. And I mean, of course, Amber's still worse, but I don't want to give Emily too much credit for not putting up with Amber's bullshit because she continually put up with her bullshit and still does. And when we get into the cheating stuff, it was interesting when Amber would talk about it. She made it seem like Emily was just out of nowhere saying, "You're cheating on me." And she's so dismissive of Emily's concern. She's just like, yeah, she was freaking out that I was cheating. And she kind of hinted that, obviously that would never happen. But are you sure? I can absolutely see Amber talking to anybody who slides into her DMs. And as Rachel points out, we don't know for sure. We can't be 100% positive that any of this is true, but so far, we don't have any reason to not believe Emily. And Emily says that Danielle actually sent her proof, I guess the DMs, that Amber was flirting with her and talking to her. And I can understand Emily getting upset about that. And Amber says here, wow, you're going to believe Danielle over me. Yes. You could say you're going to believe insert any name on earth here over me. And the answer is probably yes. You're going to believe politicians over me? Yeah, probably. And later she shows a message here where she says, I was not flirting. Not one time did I say anything flirty to her. Name one flirty thing I said to her. So she's admitting that she talked to her, but she's just claiming she wasn't flirting. But the interesting thing about this is Amber said that Emily betrayed her. Betrayal, betrayal, betrayal. And it was generally looking at pictures on Tumblr and talking to haters. So those were boundaries that she didn't want Emily to cross.
We both have boundaries. When you get into a relationship, you say those boundaries, what you accept and what you don't accept.
However, it's pretty clear that Emily's boundary was not flirting with people in DMs. And Amber didn't give a flying fuck about that. She will just dance on those boundaries if she wants to. If it's something she wants to do, who cares about boundaries until you cross hers? Then there's a problem. Not only is there a problem, there's a big problem.
Big? Are you calling me big?
And I like here how Amber says, and she was confronting me about cheating, even though I, wasn't.
Telling me that I am cheating on her, even though I wasn't.
Even though I, wasn't. It's very convincing, Amber. But if you read the texts from Emily, this sounds like a person who has just seen some proof, seen some evidence. She seems pretty angry. You're not being honest with me. I'm talking to her right now. How am I being awful by confronting you and catching you in a lie? Sorry you can't take being caught. And this is right after Emily had just gotten proof. And Amber responds by saying, you're acting crazy. It's genuinely worrying me. And like I've said a few times, the gaslighting on display from Amberlynn should be studied. It really should.
She also messaged this girl that she hooked up with in Tennessee literally a week before we got together behind my back, and I ended up calling her and everything.
You'll notice, of course, in her live, Amber gives no context. She just says, I ended up calling her. Well, according to Emily, there was some, can't remember what it was now, some natural disaster of some sort in Tennessee. And so Emily texted this friend and was like, hope you're okay, hope your family are okay. The two of them had slept together in the past, so they had a history of having a relationship. Apparently, Amber saw this in Emily's phone, got really, really angry and called Emily's Tennessee friend and threatened her and said, do not ever speak to Emily again, and then blocked her on Emily's phone.
That is wild. And remember, at this point, Amber and Emily had only known each other for a few months and really only talked on the internet. And Amber was so entitled to Emily's time, to Emily's life, that she felt like it was okay to call this random person and threaten and block her. Now, what did the text say? I don't know. I mean, it could have been Emily flirting or saying, I miss you or something like that. But knowing Amber, it was probably just exactly what Emily said. I hope you're okay. I hope your family's okay. And that was enough for Amber to be like, she's in love with her. I got to stop this right now. Because Amber really doesn't understand what friendship is or what love is. So when she sees Emily talking to somebody who she's had a relationship with in the past, she can't fathom them just being friends. Because her only frame of reference is obsession. And this is where we start to see how obsessive and possessive and bored Amber is. She has so many hours of the day to fill with just bullshit. And Emily has a job. So of course she would get frustrated because Amber would keep her on FaceTime constantly. Even when they had nothing to talk about. It was just, you need to be on FaceTime with me all the time, no matter what. And so Amber says, I asked you like 10 questions, but you kept answering with one word and having attitude. Finally, you asked how I slept. Can you imagine having to deal with this bullshit all the time? Like, if you're going to ask me 10 questions, they better be 10 questions that are actually useful. I'm never going to ask somebody 10 questions unless I really need 10 answers for something specific. But to Amber, thinking up 10 questions to ask is not a big deal because what the fuck else is she going to do? She does nothing with her life. So sitting around asking 10 questions is totally fine. But then on top of asking 10 questions, she then gets mad because Emily's not answering them to her liking. That is so annoying and obnoxious. And then she says, finally, you asked how I slept. And that apparently wasn't good enough. So she said you'd rather scroll on your phone, so have fun with that. Have a good day, bye. I mean, I would say what a child, but this is beyond that. This is somebody who needs to get a life. Like really and truly, she needs to get a life. But I don't know how she's going to do that because her life revolves around food and bugging her partner until they snap. Oh, and I forgot the job or the thing that she's working on. Maybe a memoir. That would be fascinating. And I thought this was interesting where Amber says, "You think so much in black and white, Emily." And that is rich coming from Amberlynn, the person who threatened to sue anybody and everybody for saying that Emily was in the right. Because to Amber, somebody is all right and somebody is all wrong. There's no in between. And because Amber has the mind of a child, she always thinks in black and white. To her, there is no gray area. And here are just more examples of Amber thinking it's okay to just bug Emily incessantly. Emily says, "I wasn't grumpy until you started yelling at me for watching TikTok." And Amber says, "I was asking how you slept, what you did today," asking about somebody, I guess the daughter. "And it was like I was bothering you or something." And it's because to Amber, it's not good enough to answer the questions. Amber's asking a question, but you have to answer it with the right attitude. You have to say, "It was great, my love. I am so glad you asked. Also, I'm very sorry that you had so much childhood trauma. Let's stay together forever." That's how you have to answer an Amberlynn question. And this is a great example of Emily seeing through Amber's bullshit. First, she says the person that ruins every relationship they're in by being selfish. And Amber responds, "Asking you questions to try and spark a conversation is selfish?" And she's ignoring the fact that Emily was telling her, "You were yelling at me for being on TikTok," right? That was the problem that Emily had. But Amber ignores that and starts gaslighting and acting innocent and saying, "I was just asking a question to try and spark a conversation. Is that so wrong?" And she says, "No, yelling at me for being on TikTok. Don't gaslight." See, she's seeing right through it. And Amber says, "That's all you ever do. I'm not happy. We never connect anymore." Like, hello, you are completely ignoring the point of this argument. And Emily says, "I'm so over being treated like this and you saying stupid shit like you're innocent. This and this is stupid shit, 100%. So Emily is seeing directly through the gaslighting. Why she stayed, I don't know. And you know that's got to just drive her nuts. And I think that's probably why she keeps escalating, is because her normal tactics aren't working. And she kind of lashes out because she needs to get control and she doesn't really know how. So she just gets angry. And a big portion of the texts that we see are just good examples of how Amber felt like she needed Emily's attention constantly, every second of every day, as long as she's awake. Which, right here, it says, "Sorry, I have a job and a life and you sleep all damn day." And that just keeps coming up, right? Tammy brought it up by saying that she sleeps until like 3 in the afternoon. And Emily has said it a few times. So it's pretty clear that Amber spends a lot of her day sleeping. And of course she does. Because again, what else is she going to do? But we sit on FaceTime for hours and don't say a single word. Then why are you doing it? Why would you sit on FaceTime saying nothing? That is so weird. But this is where there's more gaslighting and Amber playing innocent, because Emily is still trying to have an argument. And Amber says, "I wanted to buy that couple cars game so we can connect. But nope, you won't even do that with me." Like, what does that have to do with anything, first of all? And then this is stupid. You having a job and my sleeping schedule has nothing to do with how we spend our time on FaceTime. I mean, yeah, it kind of does. Because if all you do is sleep all day, then what are you going to talk about? Nothing has happened for you to talk about on FaceTime. And I'm going to guess, call me crazy, but I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say you don't care what happens to Emily, what she has to say. So she can tell you all day long about all the crazy stuff that happened at work or the things that her friends are saying or doing. But I bet that would make you angry because you would be jealous of her friends. You'd be jealous of her life. So you don't want to hear that. I'm guessing Emily learned that early on, that Emily better not actually talk about what happened throughout her day, because if she does, Amber will get pissy and jealous. So it's best just to not say anything. Plus, Emily's probably tired and doesn't want to just chit-chat after being at work all day. And then Amber says, "You give your energy to everyone but me. We don't do dates. You won't even spend a penny on me. Nothing." Now, first of all, this is long after Wisconsin. So she's not even near her. They haven't been in the same room for months. So I'm not sure how they would do dates other than FaceTime dates, I guess. But you give your energy to everyone but me. I mean, yeah, probably her daughter. I'm sure she gives more energy to her daughter and the people around her that she sees every day and the people at work that she has to interact with. Yeah, she's giving a lot of energy all day long. And so, unfortunately, there's not a lot left to give to you when she gets home. But Amber wants to be the center of Emily's universe. She needs Emily to just constantly shower her with attention and reassurance. Those are the two things Amber needs more than anything on earth: attention and reassurance. And the reassurance is just that Emily won't stop giving her the attention she wants. And she says it doesn't feel like a relationship anymore. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but it's really not. Even when you guys are together, it's not really a relationship, because all you do is argue. You don't see each other in person. And if you're just sitting on FaceTime saying nothing, it's not a relationship. And Emily says, because you gave me $10 so I could order pancakes one time means I need to spend money on you. If that's the case, I'll keep a running tab. So far, you're hundreds behind for the Billy tickets. And I mean, I think that's fair. If Amber's going to keep a running tab by holding it over Emily's head, I think it's fair that Emily plays along. But then down here, Amber says, $10, I can send you a screenshot of what I've sent you, basically saying I've sent more than that. And she says, you're so unappreciative. And during the premiere, Snowflake made a comment in the chat and said, you never thanked me for the money I was going to send you. And that's in reference to when Beck's mom was sick and Amber and her weren't getting along. And Amber sent her a voicemail and it said this.
Not once have you thanked me personally for the money I was going to give you.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just getting those vibes from this, where she says, you're so unappreciative. This is just so wild. So Amber sent Emily $100 for Mother's Day because Emily is a mother, okay? Makes sense, right? Well,
and if you look again, you can see Emily sent that money back. So 100 goes out and Emily sends 100 back. Emily claims, and this is what she told me, that she sent Amber that money back because she knew that Amber was going to hold it over her head. And she says the reason she knew this was because on Mother's Day, Amber sent Emily this $100, and then Amber got angry with Emily because Emily didn't send her any money back, claiming that it was Mother's Day for Amber as well because she was a pet parent, and therefore Emily should have given Amber money too. And when Amber said this, Emily got really annoyed and was like, if you give me a gift, give it freely or don't give it at all.
So first of all, Amber basically wanted to send $100 to Emily and then have her just send it back and say, Happy Mother's Day to you too, which is maybe the dumbest and craziest thing I've ever heard Amberlynn say, is that she should have gotten something for Mother's Day. Amberlynn Reed should have gotten a gift for Mother's Day because she is a pet parent. And I'm guessing if you were to ask Amber, like, what that's about, she would say, well, since I can't have kids, being a pet parent is the closest I'll ever get to being a mom. That is great and all, but that doesn't make you an actual mother. Even if we were going to include pet parents the way you treat your animals, I don't think you deserve a gift for being their pet parent. And regardless of why Emily sent that money back, she was right. You can clearly tell that Amber will hold the money over her head by saying you're so unappreciative and telling her how much she spent on her and stuff like that. So I don't blame her for sending it back. And here's another example of Amber acting all innocent. No, I'm treating you like this. That's kind of telling. Because you hung up on me yet again, all because I was trying to have a conversation with you. And that's what Amber does, is she does something that just pisses Emily off. And when Emily gets mad, she then says, it was just because I was trying to have a conversation. And then Amber says, you spend money all the time. Stop gaslighting me. Gaslighting is one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot. And it doesn't necessarily need to be real serious. But generally speaking, it's used to insinuate that somebody is being pretty nefarious. And she's saying that Emily is gaslighting her by trying to convince her that she doesn't have the money to spend on frivolous crap for Amber. So think about how self-centered that is. She's saying, stop gaslighting me. I know that you can spend more money on me. Emily points out, like, yeah, I spend money. And she calls Amber out because Amber just wastes money. She spends so much on Legos. Like, she has spent thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on Legos, and I bet she's barely done any of them. And I like how Emily says you spend hundreds of dollars on Legos and bingo and stupid, ugly, crappy dolls. And this was interesting from Emily. She says, your sleeping schedule can be changed. You choose to sleep those hours. My job cannot. And that is absolutely true. Amber has no responsibilities. As long as she uploads every once in a while or goes live every once in a while, she makes enough money that she literally can just do whatever she wants, whenever she wants. So sleeping all day is her choice. That is the life that she is choosing to live. And that is pathetic. And she says, sorry, my job is more important than being on FaceTime. And I guarantee you that really pissed Amber off. Because deep down, Amber wants FaceTime with her to be more important than Emily's job. And then Amber says, I asked you to send me a Lego that you won't do, and you said you didn't have the money for it. Bullshit. Wow. Just think about that, right? She's saying, I wanted you to buy me this thing, and you said you didn't have the money for it, but I noticed that you're spending money on other things. Emily wasn't saying she has no money. She's saying she doesn't have the money to spend on that. She doesn't want to spend it on that. And I don't blame her. You already had stacks upon stacks of unopened Legos that you'll probably never do. So I wouldn't send you one either. And Amber says, I'm not going to wake up just to sit here while you're at work. That is quite the peek into her psyche. I mean, we know her day, every day, is exactly the same. Whenever she wakes up, she does nothing. But what this says is while she's doing nothing, all she's thinking about is counting down the minutes, the hours, the seconds, until she can talk to Emily again. Because in her mind, that's the only reason she's even waking up, is just to get to the point where she can talk to Emily again. And that's not healthy. I mean, either way, her day will be the same. It's going to be nothing. Sitting, watching YouTube, and eating. That is every single day for Amberlynn. The only thing that's different on any given day is whatever's going through her head. And it sounds like most days, the thing that's going through her head is, when is Emily going to FaceTime me? And if it doesn't happen when Amberlynn wants it to or thinks it should, I would imagine there's an argument that would be started at that point. Emily says, don't ever send me a single cent again. And Amber says, I'm showing you that you're a liar. And what Amber's referring to is when Emily said, you sent $10 for pancakes, and because of that, you expect me to spend money on you. And what Emily was saying was, if you're only going to give me money because you expect me to reciprocate, then stop sending me money. But that's not the point that Amber took from that. She just heard the $10 and was like, no, it was more than that. And she fixates on the amount, the $10, the one $10 transaction, and is saying, I'm showing you that you're a liar and unappreciative, which again shows that Amber does not give anything without expecting something in return, even if that something is what Amber deems sufficient recognition, because she says, and unappreciative. So she expected Emily to grovel and thank her profusely for sending the $10 and the $35 or whatever. But again, the amount wasn't the issue. So Amber really thinks she's doing something there and proving that Emily's a liar, because you said all I sent was $10, but I proved you wrong. That's not the point. And so Emily says, a liar? Are you kidding me? Go to hell. And then she says, you said I sent you $10. I'm proving I didn't. But Amber is either intentionally missing the point or she's an idiot. And she doesn't understand what Emily was saying. I think it's probably a little bit of both. And then, of course, Emily threatens to go to reaction channels, which I think that happened a lot. And Emily says, you are literally and genuinely the fakest person I know. Amber says, what makes me fake? Everything you do has selfish motives behind it. Absolutely. Even when she sent Emily, her girlfriend, some money for pancakes or for whatever, it doesn't matter, she expected something in return. Or at the very least, she expected to be able to hold it over Emily's head. And that's exactly what she's doing right now. And then Amber says, maybe the most delusional thing, just because I am a giving person doesn't make me selfish. WTF. How did you get there? How did you get to thinking that Emily is saying you are such a giving person, you are selfish? That is not at all what she's saying. In fact, she's saying the opposite. She's saying you are not a giving person. A giving person would give for the sake of giving and would enjoy just the giving and not expect anything in return. And when I say expect anything in return, I don't mean money or material things. You expect recognition. You expect to be properly admired for your giving. That's why you talk about it. That's why you tell us how you donate to the homeless.
Every single December, I like to publicly show myself donating, whether that's to homeless people, like to them, or to the homeless shelter.
Whether you do or not, I don't know, probably not. Every time you give your mom your old shit, you have to tell us about it.
I went through a highlighter phase, and now I'm just trying to choose my favorites so I can keep my favorites and then give the rest to my mom. My mom loves my little piddly stuff that I get rid of. It's so cute.
When you gave your mom the part of the salmon that you don't like, you had to tell us about it.
I like the outside the best, so I'm going to give you the inside. Like a piece from the inside.
So yes, it's always selfish. And Emily says, you're not a giving person. And Amber says, yes, I am. Because Amber has created this facade, and her entire personality, her entire fake personality, is that her love language is giving, and that she loves to give people things. And that might be true, but again, it's only because she gets something out of it. She gets attention, recognition, and it bolsters her fake persona of being a good person, or at least she thinks it does. Amber says, you're just mad that I'm proving you wrong. And right here, she thinks Emily gives a single shit about how much Amber gave her. That is not what Emily's getting at. But Amber, again, is so fixated on the details of how much she gave. And all Emily was saying was, you gave me some money, and because of that, I'm expected to then spend my money on you. That's not right. That's all she was saying. And I don't think Amber's too stupid to understand that. I think this is part of her manipulation, muddying the waters and gaslighting by making the entire argument about that, because it's a straw man. Amber tends to straw man a lot. And it sort of seems like it's because she's clueless and doesn't know what she's talking about. But I honestly think she knows exactly what she's doing when she does this, when she starts changing the subject of the argument, because it's hard to keep up with it at that point. And yeah, right here, Emily says, you're proving me right, actually, that anytime you give me money, you throw it back in my face months later. But Amber doesn't want the argument to be about that. She wants to be able to prove something. And she thought it was a real gotcha moment when she could prove to Emily that she had spent more on her. But Emily didn't care because that wasn't the point. And here, yeah, see, this is Amber playing stupid. I only showed you that because you said I only sent $10. That was the example, you dipshit. And I thought this was funny because Amber says, you seem apathetic towards me. And I think she just learned the word apathetic, even though I know she knows who apathetic facts is, but I think she just looked it up because Emily says apathetic. And I think she means like, why do you think that? Why, like, what have I been doing to make you think that? But she says, yes, like showing no feeling or interest in what I am saying. Basically saying Webster's dictionary defines apathetic as, I just thought that was funny. But she says, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you. And this is that teenager, first love, immature behavior that Amber is starting to be known for. Sympathy fishing. She wants Emily to say, no, I love you. I'm so happy with you and all that. And here Emily sees right through it yet again. I've been feeling like you're fishing for another reason to be mad at me. But I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a reason to be mad. I think it's just she's fishing for attention. She's fishing for that reassurance. I don't know that Amber enjoys fighting or being angry. I think she just constantly needs that attention and reassurance. And when she doesn't get it, she blows a gasket. The result is the same, right? I mean, she's fishing for something and then gets mad. So it doesn't really matter what she's fishing for, but ultimately I think it's for you to say, no, I'm not apathetic. I love you. Let's stay together forever. I'm so sorry that you had such a traumatic childhood. And then when Emily says, I feel like you've been fishing for another reason to be mad at me, Amber says, I don't want to be mad at you. I just don't feel good at all. I feel like something's wrong inside me with one of my organs or intestines. Like, what? But again, Emily saw through it, and Amber kind of panics and backtracks and tries to think of something to make it seem like she wasn't really fishing for anything, but the best she could come up with was intestines, organs. That's why I said that. I wasn't fishing for anything because Amber's not terribly bright and not a quick thinker. And most of the end of the video is Emily really kind of supporting Amber in her weight loss and trying to help her stay motivated and getting her GLP-1. And who would have thought, you know? Turns out maybe Emily wasn't at least Amber's feeder. She might have been somebody else's, but she was supportive of Amber losing weight. And Amber was the one that chose not to. She had every opportunity. One thing I did find interesting, though, at one point, Amber said she couldn't take the GLP-1s anymore because of her gallbladder.
I was fixing to get approved for a GLP-1, which has been very easy for me in the past. But this company asked about my gallbladder. I told them I had gallstones over a decade ago, and they denied me.
And everybody was like, okay, whatever. But it turns out that wasn't entirely false, because Amber actually shows documentation that because of her gallbladder issues, she can't just be given an injection. However, Emily points out that you can probably do it, but you just have to be managed by an in-person doctor. So there is an opportunity there for Amber, but she says, yeah, but my mom won't take me, and if she does, I'll feel like a burden. Now, the weird thing about that is Amber doesn't hesitate to ask her mom to do anything for her, ever. She never feels like a burden until she can use it as an excuse to not do something she doesn't want to do, right? All of a sudden, when this golden opportunity arises for her to show up in person at the doctor to do her GLP-1, she then grows a conscience. I don't want to be a burden, which shows a couple of things. Number one, that she understands that she is a burden. She knows that it's wrong for her to be such a burden on her mom. And two, of all the things that Amber asks of her mom, this would be probably one of the least burdensome things she would ask for, because it would just be like once a month or twice a month or something like that. So it would really not be that big a deal. But again, it's something that Amber doesn't want to do, so she sees the opportunity to use being a burden as not only a way to get out of doing it, or to excuse herself from doing it, but also to look like a saint. I don't want to be a burden to my mom. Unless I want to go get vapes or alcohol or literally anything else in the world, I will have her take me all day, every day. But once a month to the doctor for something that could save my life, I don't want to be a burden. So I'm not going to dive real deep into this section with the Jordy video, because I don't feel like I have a lot to add, because Rachel thoroughly covered it and did a great job really diving into the details. But there were a few things that I had a couple thoughts about. And basically, Emily is angry, and she makes it very clear that she's angry because Amber is being hypocritical. She wants Emily to stop watching Jordy, but then she watches Jordy. And Emily makes it pretty clear. She says, you say, why do you always watch bad things about me, yet you watch them? You live for this. You said you were watching him last night. That's when he posted it. So don't play dumb. So she is very clearly saying, you watch Jordy, yet you tell me not to. But Amber, of course, plays infuriatingly innocent and says, what is happening right now? You are being so rude to me for no reason. Yet again. And all I wanted to do was talk to you. And it's hard to say whether Amber is just completely oblivious to how stupid she's being, or if these are calculated moves. I would lean towards they're calculated, because she wants to be able to play the victim. And it's real easy to do that when she can pretend like Emily is coming after her for no reason. But at the same time, I can also see her just completely missing the point, because she is not bright. So I can see her fixating, like she did on the $10. I can see her fixating on the fact that Emily's mad that Jordy was watching an old video of her. And that's what Amber makes it about. Not the hypocrisy, but the content of Jordy's live and how it was affecting Emily. See right here, it says, you are mad at me because Jordy found an old video of you. So this could go either way, whether she's just an idiot and doesn't understand the thing that Emily very clearly pointed out, because in her mind, she doesn't do anything to deserve any kind of pushback or any kind of consequences. And so it can't be her hypocrisy. It has to be Jordy. And why would Emily be mad at Jordy? That's just stupid. So obviously Emily's stupid. And I think that's where her mental gymnastics take her, is just however she needs to get there, she gets to Emily being irrational and crazy. Or more likely, it's her manipulating. And actually, the more I read these, the more I'm convinced that it's intentional, because I think she does it so much that Emily can spot it as soon as it starts happening. Because Emily says, don't play innocent. You and I both know that's not true. And she's referring to the fact that Amber said she didn't do anything. And then Amber goes to her tried and true, "You are treating me awful, Emily." And down here it says, "What the F is happening? Answer or YouTube knows everything." And I guarantee that what Amber is threatening to share with YouTube is Emily's responses, Emily calling her names and Emily treating her awful. And I think Amber really thought that was going to be the ace up her sleeve, right? That was her secret move, because she thought, if I showed YouTube the way Emily is treating me, Emily would never live it down. She would have to leave the internet forever. You know, obviously Emily would have defended herself by showing all the texts, and it would have been pretty clear immediately, and we would have ended up right where we are now. So I just think it's interesting that Amber was basically saving all of the texts and kind of holding them back as a failsafe, as the big red button, if you will. Every time she calls me names, that's one more thing that I can show YouTube to show that I'm a victim. And it's interesting because Amber said that's what Emily was doing. She claimed that Emily was constantly holding information and threatening to go to reaction channels all the time. And that's true. She was doing that. But what do you know? Amber is doing the exact same thing. Because again, rules for thee and not for me. That is Amber's motto. Aside from, I never do anything wrong, and I just got out of the shower. I'm curious what you guys think Amber's motto would be. Like, if she was being honest, what would her actual motto be? But I think it is ultra obvious at this point that Amber is not and has not been the victim in any of this. So I don't think there's going to be a part 2. I'll probably go through it again and just make sure I didn't forget any parts that I wanted to mention, or if I have any new thoughts, I may make a small kind of follow-up. But for the most part, Rachel did an outstanding job as usual. It was really fun to be there for the premiere, and seeing all these texts. Number one, I don't feel so bad defending Emily, because I don't think she's as evil as we thought. However, I do kind of feel stupid defending her so much, because she may still be with her, but I don't think Emily's as bad as we originally thought. But on the other hand, Amber is worse than we thought. And there is no way on earth she will ever gain any self-awareness, because she cannot see things through anybody else's perspective, right? For somebody who claims to be an empath, it is impossible for her to understand how her actions affect somebody else. The only thing she can perceive is how others affect her. And that's all that matters to her. So anyway, I'm looking forward to see what happens next. I don't think Amber's gonna respond, especially since Emily was likely reported. I think they're gonna lay low for a little bit, at least when it comes to this stuff. I'm sure Amber will post some feeder content because she likes to do that, because why not? Because she gets to eat. And maybe some thirst traps or something, or little mini vlogs like she's been doing. But she will struggle to do any live streams, because all anybody will want to talk about is the Emily situation. And I think she's trying to avoid that right now, because Emily might get in trouble and Amber's trying to help her friend or girlfriend. So I don't think there's going to be any crash outs or anything like that. Maybe eventually, but not right away. So I think we may be in for another lull in Girl World, but we'll get through it together, like always. And then, of course, we've got Vlogmas to look forward to. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.